Howdy, howdy. Welcome to Jason's Thoughts, episode 93. Here we go,
Woo!
on the road to 100. And my good friend Hassan is back. Welcome back, Hassan. I say this every time, but I think it should just be the Hassan and Jason's Thoughts show. But welcome, my friend. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Jason. And we'll address the elephant in the room. Yes, I've done a bit of a hair adjustment. Like the fans, Jason, we've all been ripping our hair out for the next episode, and so we are here. We are here. This episode, Jason, I was inspired by somebody close and personal to you asking about
Yeah.
fatherhood, and I think that's kind of what we'll be talking about today. But just before we get into that,
Yeah.
what was the nature around the question on fatherhood, and how did this sort of prompt in your mind?
Well, yeah, my son, we were just talking, and it sounded like he had this almost like a jealous vibe of the conversations we have and some of the other guests that I talk with, I was like, I could just feel this. I'm like, did you want to do a vlog together? Like, you can be on and be a guest, and he's like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. And I said, okay, well, like my only rules are you bring the topic and it's unscripted. And so he's a pretty deep thinker, and so he came back to me a couple days later, and he's like, yeah, I think it'd be cool to talk about fatherhood. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa.
What are you
Let's
trying to say, son?
yeah, wait, where are we gonna go here? Is this some live counseling, or telling me the things I did wrong? And so, anyways, jokes aside, it kind of spurred thoughts that, of course, I'm going to make some time for him on the show too, but that I'd love to unpack. I mean, we're both fathers, and I'd love to unpack a father to father perspective versus potentially a father and son perspective. I think that would be the later. So here we are, and really want to unpack fatherhood, because I think it's important.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was going to change my backgrounds. I think it should be less daunting now with all my
There you
lighting.
go.
Um, I think Jason, fatherhood is such a beautiful, beautiful topic, and one that isn't often talked about. I
Sure.
find, the times you hear fatherhood among, men with each other is when either the news is coming, hey, you have a bundle of joy on the way, you're
Mhm.
celebrating that, or,
Yeah.
it's just dad sitting on the couch drinking a beer, like, oh man, like I can't hang out with you this week, bro. I got my son's soccer game. Like but you never talk about the actual journey that comes through there. And so
It's true.
and this journey is a powerful one. I think it shapes us as who we are as men, and
Yeah.
it changes our lives in the 9 out of 10 times for the best. And so, with that, let's talk about your personal journey in fatherhood.
Sure.
Like, when did it begin? Your
Yeah.
current stage now, and what was that
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
like for you?
Yeah. Well, you know, I think I was 26 or 27
Hmm.
when my wife and I were like, we didn't even say a word. We just were like, is it time? And it was like, yeah, it's time. And so it was like, cool. And, I would say that I think in this era, we were pretty young, would be defined as pretty young to have kids. And, like, I was still like getting my career going. I was like, I was selling car stereos and big crazy stuff like that during the Fast and Furious launch. Was super sweet times. That probably defines how immature I was too. And lo and behold, we were blessed, with our first child, daughter, which is, I think, very important to go. I mean, you have a daughter as well, and I think it's one of those things as a man. I think you really, it's an experience, and so we were blessed with a very healthy daughter, and then. Sure enough, we started getting really, really comfortable. She was a great kid, really easy, as sleeping through the night at like 6 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. And year was coming around. I was like, I'm really getting comfortable here. I don't,
Hmm.
I don't have it defined. I need to have 3 kids or 4 kids or 2 kids or 1 kid. I was pretty easy going, and I was like, I think it's maybe time if we're looking for round two. So and then sure enough, we had a son. Uh, about I guess they're about a year and a half apart, almost a year and 9 months. And let me tell you, um, right off the hop, just being blessed by a healthy child is
Hmm.
something not to be taken granted for. My son was in the hospital, and all of a sudden he was really struggling to breathe. And so here we were, just thinking we got this. We've already had a kid, and then all of a sudden the doctors whisking him away and taking him to the ICU, and lo and behold, he needs to be on a ventilator. His lungs were a little bit soggy. And so we're like, okay, it's a little different. And then, sure enough, middle of the night, 3, 4 in the morning, he's in the ICU. We're in the room, and the nurse comes and says, start, not panicking. They're the sensible ones. We're panicking because they wake us up and they're like, something happened with your son. And it ended up that the ventilator that was blowing the air in, the pressure was too high and it popped one of the kind of the lung pieces. And so all of a sudden his lungs collapsed, or one of his lungs collapsed, and it was pushing over. And it was a bad thing, and they got him fine. Cut a little hole in his little chest, and then nursed him back into health. And so, I think these as father, you just think, oh, you have a baby and everything's gonna be all right, and he's more than recovered. Let's put it that way. But you don't realize just number one, to be blessed to be able to have a child is number one. I mean, not everybody has that opportunity. And then to have a healthy child is another blessing. So, to say my start was it's still probably very easy compared to so many tragic things that people have to go through, but it made me very aware how sensitive and how precious life is. So yeah, fast forward, the rest of life was pretty straightforward. Good, healthy kids, one boy, one girl, plenty of fighting, plenty of pulling hair, plenty of throwing dirt in the other one's face, and um, went through all the kind of years. And as the years went by more and more, it was like, wow, this is different different dynamic. You think you're figuring things out, and then they change again, and now we're dealing with not dealing with we the kids are now almost 21 and almost 19. So and now you kind of go from the baby stage. Now they're driving cars, they're legal to drink responsibly. They can do really whatever they want, and they're starting to um, build their lives, right? Like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And to see that has been really reflective too, because it is a pretty daunting world, and I see them kind of turtling a little bit because it is so scary, right? And then I reflect back when I was their age, and I was like, yeah, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I just wanted to party and have a good time and listen to good tunes and drive my car and big stereo and all that kind of stuff, and that was it. So there's such a wide gambit, but that's the shrunken Coles Notes version of the journey so far.
You know what, man? What a powerful journey it's been, man. I mean, and it's intelligence and emotional intelligence. I need to recognize the emotions you felt with kid number one. Like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
like this is awesome. And then kid number two comes around and just a drastic change. Within a year apart, no less, right? It isn't like it was 5 or 10 years apart. We're like, oh, like we
Yeah.
have a fresh perspective. It's in that same realm. And I
Yeah.
loved what you said about the blessings of a healthy child. When me and my wife were expecting our first child, people kept asking, "What do you want the baby to be?" And
Mm.
I was kind of falling in. I'm like, "Oh, it could be, I wouldn't mind either or." But then I
Yeah.
asked it
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
another friend of mine,
Yeah.
who has, 3 kids and all the youngest one over the age of 5, and he said, "The next time somebody asks you, what do you want your child to be, say healthy."
Yes. Yeah.
He's like that should be the only answer that comes out of your mouth, and that should be the spot where your brain is.
Yeah.
And I just and it goes to show how critical that mentality needs to be. Is just like just let them be healthy.
Yeah.
Like what anything else, everything else, as you know, works
Yep.
itself out.
Yep.
Like gender reveals great, and naturally you should care. Like there's a sense of pride and
Yeah.
love that comes in. Every
Yeah.
dad
Yeah.
wants a little girl in his arms and a son
Yes.
to, like pass lineage and legacy on. So like that does exist in its own right, and I would never take that away from someone. But I just loved the so real example in your life of, man, boy or girl, it doesn't matter if they're healthy,
Yeah.
like that just needs to be the core. So beautiful. Thank you for that
Yeah.
share, man.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. The second thing I'd love to sort of chat with you about
Yeah.
is the hard parts of fatherhood.
Oh man.
Like there's many things we could say that are easy, and I think the hard parts is a bit exacerbated on media. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, diapers. Oh my God, changing toddlers screaming in like the grocery stores. Like, yes, those are a realm of challenge, but most dads would say that's not even the biggest issue. Like it is as you articulated in your personal journey. My kids are teenagers now. Everything else was pretty straightforward after my son's
Yeah.
health was back in order. So
Yeah.
when we look at truly hard parts of fatherhood,
Hmm.
what was that for you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm sure everybody's got, different perspectives. Of course, we all have our own journeys with it. We decided that, we had our daughter, and then we thought, okay, let's. My wife had a career in the medical field, and it was like, okay, well, years up, let's get back to work, put her in daycare. And so we did that. And then again, our son comes around and it was like it's a lot of money, number one, to go to daycare. And I don't know how anybody does it now, but we were in a spot where we, said, we can do this, like where she can stay home and raise the kids, which is another blessing that I can never ever repay her for because it's so massive. Because the cost of two kids in daycare was like you're just going to work to go to work, like, and then someone else is raising your kid 40 hours a week, and it just didn't sit like why did we have kids? Like, so again, very much a blessing that she was able to stay with the kids full time. And that is heavy job, much more strenuous than anything else. And while that was kind of happening, I was moving forward in my career, right? She basically had the home so taken care of. Oh, and then we added a puppy. That was not smart. That's not about the kids, but that was a stupid move on my part. But anyways, my career, I could still kind of focus in on the career, and I and be the provider. And one of the tough parts with it was, you just keep creeping up, and I was working so hard. I was so like, gotta provide for the family, gotta provide for the family. And it was kind of unfortunate in the sense that like I was away a lot of the times, right? And then I I saw it in reflection, but not during the time. Oh, dad's been away for a week. Oh, here comes dad, and dad has some presents, and I was basically buying their love to a certain degree because I wouldn't say I was gone every single week, but I was gone a lot and I was busy a lot. And even when I was home, I wasn't necessarily present because I was always on my phone for work or whatever. And so I was very absent. And, so on paper, it looked really good. Like, yeah, you just go do your career thing and get going and up and running and work really, really hard, put in the long hours because then I can pay for the things that we need. But the reality was I was trading in myself and my time with them for money, which money is the root of all evil. So it to me it was probably one of the as I was kept on growing and going up until about when they were teens. Then I realized, wow, I'm way too invested in my career, and I am missing out on my kids, right? Like raising my kids and being present with my kids. Now, on the weekends, stuff like that, I was certainly around, and we were doing things, but I think it's trying to find the balance between, you know, you're trying to stretch and go for the gold at work, but then, if I could have made better sacred time and better time to connect with my kids, I probably wouldn't have had that guilt along the way. So I think it's a good life lesson that for myself, I maybe caught a little bit later and was still able to adjust to still get some of that young age time. But it was a tough one to realize too late. Like it shouldn't have never been that late, but we live and we learn, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things I liken is the generational gaps between us because I'm
Yeah,
in a generation where hybrid model exists.
yeah,
Zoom does exist. Parents have spoken out enough to say, "Oh, can I schedule this meeting after my kid's appointment?" In the time when you were working, it was in office 5 days a
yeah,
week. There wasn't a concept like unless you're a remote salesman and you're calling on the phone, but
yeah,
you were physically where you were. This isn't to age you by any means, but it's like
yeah.
the the work dynamics were very different because like anybody
Yes,
could listen in and say, "Well, Jason, why don't you just work hybrid?" It didn't exist like
it didn't
until COVID.
exist.
It just did not. Five
Yeah,
years ago is all we're talking about, right? Like it
yeah,
before that,
totally
life
changed
like
it.
this didn't exist the way it does.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I agree.
so I almost wonder, it's like time is changing so quickly in front of us, right? And if we like look at it, the past century from technology that we had till now, it's just astronomical in how things grow. So it's
Right.
very easy to lose sight of the fact that things and generations change. So when you talk about the hard parts of being away from your kid, if you were to, does that feeling in a contribution to seeing judging yourself by today's standards? Like, are you judging yourself from who you were in that moment, or is it like looking back and is current technology and workflow maybe playing an impact on, oh, I could have had more time. In reality, maybe you couldn't have had any more time, even if you wanted to.
I think it was more about in the moment, like reflecting back. I could have made
Mm,
more time, right? I was very much in control of my work schedule to a degree. Like I traveled all over northern Alberta for a long time.
mm,
Once upon a time, I was on the island, and we were going to move down to Victoria, so I took a job down in Victoria. And then it ended up we didn't move. Um, and now I was driving to and from work like 4 hours a day almost kind of thing. And so I still think that back then, if I had more real understanding of what is important in life, I could have
mm.
adjusted differently, right? Like, yeah, careers are important, but like if you're gone tomorrow and you're an absent father, like kids like, oh, I mean, that's a little rude, but your kids just you haven't given them enough yet. You haven't given them their time, and your time is so precious, right? And so yeah, nowadays it'd be like it's so much easier, right? It's just like there's a lot of flexibility for both parents in different ways, and the ability to connect, the ability to be hybrid. I mean, yeah, and technology for sure. It's like, man, I used to drive like an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours to go visit a store, one of my retail locations for like 4 or 5 hours, and then I would
Mm-hmm.
drive back home. So I'd spend 5 hours in a store, 5 hours on the road. That's a 10-hour day. And guess what? I'm pretty exhausted when I get home. So am I home? Yeah, sure I am. But having some sensibilities about what's important back then would have been great if I could
That's
go back in
beautiful.
time.
And I think that's so beautiful, and then how we've essentially covered the hard parts and lessons learned. Is
Mm,
there another lesson? You know what? Let me pivot this question because
all
like
right.
you've adjusted hard parts and lessons learned. There
Yeah.
is another component I want to address to you about lessons. Every father, when you're expecting baby in the womb, you have a vision in your head somewhat.
Yes.
If
Yes.
it's a boy, it's like, oh man, he's gonna play the sports that I'd like him to play, or well, something that is in synergy to you because this child's of you. But there's
Yeah.
also a moment where you have, man, I want my kid to be like this. Many parents say, I don't want my kid to be a picky eater. When I grew up, what you ate is
Mm,
what you ate. So were
yeah.
there any lessons or core values you wanted instilled in your children, and have any of them actually stayed? It's like, you know what, East or West, toddler or 20-year-old, these are the values I want you to have. And what would this be?
Yeah, like that's a great, very great question. I my wife and I are pretty chill. Pretty cool cucumbers, I like to think. I'm pretty biased, but we didn't really have a lot of expectations, where like I played a lot of sports. I played soccer for like 13 years as a kid, and that was like my everything, right? I took my, I didn't, I wanted them to enjoy things, and sports is a really, really great thing for kids to be in. And, my son goes into soccer, and, the biggest kid on the field with the biggest leg comes in, and he winds up this freaking massive kick, and my son's playing defense, and where does the ball land? Boom, right? Just it's like I feel like he flew like 6 feet off the ground. And so soccer was over after that. And to me, I just felt like if they aren't having fun, I'm not gonna force it. I'm not gonna press it. And to me, I feel like the legacy to continue through is like to have that sense of like no worries, no pressure, all's good, but try, right? Like give something a shot once. Like don't be fearful of things. Give it a shot once.
Mm,
And if you love it, cool. If you don't, I'm not going to press you to keep it going and then be unhappy, right? And so I feel my actions for sure through the years have had that with them as well, where they're just kind of cool, cool, cool. But there is a downside to that, that style as well, which is like you don't push through the hard stuff, right?
mm,
And I think sports is a great safe environment besides the ball coming in your face, any ball coming into your face at, whatever miles per hour. But I still think that's a good place to push through hard things and have wins and the biggest of wins, but then the biggest of losses as well, because those are strong, strong life lessons. And for my kids, I feel like they had some wins and they had some losses, but not enough. And so they kind of in life had to experience it in different ways, which can also be a little bit difficult. So I think they're pretty chill like me, and they're pretty easygoing in a lot of things. But some things, I get a little particular as well with some things, and they picked up that trait as well. And they don't like to lose either, because they didn't get enough of it, right? You need to lose in life to be able
mm.
to handle it and know how to handle it better. So,
That's beautiful, man.
mm,
Um, Let me see what's else on my list here. So I know we like to go raw with these, but I did have like this is
yeah,
such a beautiful topic. I had a list
yeah,
of things. Let's see here. Advice and reflection. Um,
yeah.
Overall advice or reflection you give to young dads or aspiring dads.
Great question. I think everybody has their own journey, but about halfway through my journey halfway through current reality, so maybe 9, 10. Um, I I I think that we talk so much about the kids, but I actually think there is a spot for us individually too
Mm,
to be aware, self-aware, right? To take time, and perfect time is actually Mental Health Awareness Month in June. So, but once upon a time in my fatherhood, I was so focused on my kids and even though I felt like I was a bit of an absent father, I was still always thinking kids, kids, kids. And what ended up happening was I kind of lost who I was. And I became pretty unhealthy. I was quite overweight. I didn't really have anything for myself because it was just like work, work, parenting, bring home the money, work, parenting, and uh, and so I think as a best practice for fathers, I think there's you need to make time for yourself, and whether that's just being healthy, you know, and that can be a lot of different ways, like, making time for friends, right? Like not feeling guilty about it, right? Like, once a week, getting on a call and calling up some friends or going out for a restaurant, grabbing some beers, whatever it may be. Beers aren't healthy, but they still the event is healthy to get out. And I wish I did a little bit more of balancing that into my life as well, because yeah, I was sick in a sense that I was overweight. I wasn't really happy, and I just lost myself in work, right? Because that's the easy
Mm,
thing. You just blind yourself from that. So I think making, you know, just whether it's active or healthy, just making some time for yourself, even though you got a busy life with two, three kids, one kid, it doesn't matter. I think that's really, really important. The other, I think, recommendation I would have. I was a helicopter parent, and if you've heard of a helicopter parent, they're the ones that are always swarming over and watching there. Don't do that, don't do that. Oh, watch out for that. Blah 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 blah. If I could go back, I think I'd still probably be a little bit of a helicopter, but I'd probably be sitting on the helicopter pad a little bit more because caused me a lot of stress and a lot of pain. I was always
mm,
worried. I was always nervous. The what ifs took over my world. And instead of just, worrying less, let them be kids, let them hurt themselves, let them fall. It will suck for that moment, but you just can't protect them from everything unless you want to put them in a bubble. And a helicopter parent, to me, in reflection, was probably not the best for my kids because I was always on top of them, and it made them fearful, right, of things that they
mm.
didn't really need to be that fearful of.
And now they're courageously out and about driving.
And I'd still be a helicopter parent if I could keep up with them, but you gotta, and that's probably part of it, right? The playing on a playground, I was worried about them bumping their head or skinning their knee, and now they're driving vehicles with other people and they're new at it. If I let go a little bit more back then in the playground, I probably wouldn't be as full of white hair as I am now, right? So,
There's a thing I heard. It's a parent will never stop loving their child, and a parent will never stop worrying about their child.
100%.
Like your child could be the best driver in the world and get the
Yes,
licensing for it, and it's literally I'm the number one in the world to do it, but you'll
still
still
worry.
worry. And I think helicopter or not, I think that's part of love, man. I think like
Yeah.
sure there may be personal anxieties around it, sure, but I think the core of it's love, which is
Yeah.
super beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Let's see
I will
here.
share one part of that too, just to pass it to my mom too, and some accolades for her was there was the same thing when so I was essentially a professional driver. I drove so much. I put hundreds of thousands of kilometers in my car every day. And you know, my mom still, you know, I come visit her or whatever. We didn't live in the same city, but I come visit her, and she's like, I'm still worried about you driving. And I'm like, Mom, I'm literally a professional driver at this point. I mean, it wasn't a self-driving car, but it might as well have been. I was, never been in an accident. I don't speed, any of that stuff. I mean, I had a flashy car, but it was also a very safe car. But my mom, you know, always worried about me forever and ever. So some things just never change.
It's funny on the driving topic, as I think this is something every kid can relate to, no matter how old your parent gets. And like
Yeah.
me and my dad, like up before he retired, we worked 5 minutes away from one another. So I
Yeah.
would drive him to and from work, and
Yeah.
oh my God, Jason, like every day, I know where I'm going. Yep, go in this lane. What are you doing in that lane? Or my mom. And dude, we have this old minivan that we still use,
Yeah.
and it's Dodge Grand Caravan. It's over a decade
Nice.
old, and now when you accelerate, it makes more noise than what it's actually doing. So, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just going 40. Like, please don't worry. I'm not gonna kill you today. Like, oh, good
Oh my
lordy.
goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I guess the final question for you, Jason. Any these are some more rapid fire.
Okay.
Favorite bedtime story to read your kids?
Ooh, man. Well, that is going way, way back. Um, I would say Where the Wild Things Are, which that
Hmm.
was one of my favorites as a kid. And we always had to borrow it from the library. So I never had a copy. So it was very special to me when I got it. And so when the kids were young, I don't think it was their favorite book, but it was my favorite book still reading to them. So that's a classic.
And that superpower you wish you had?
Ooh. Either time travel or the
Hmm.
ability to slow down time. That would
Beautiful.
have fixed everything.
Hmm. And this might be a bit down through memory lane, but what was one of like every kid mispronounces a word? What was the one word from each of your kid that was like your favorite? Like, oh, please don't correct this, like for as long as you can.
Does it have to be a correction, or did they use the word that for the first time that was spot on, but it wasn't a word they should use?
We can do both. Why not?
Uh, Okay, I have one with my daughter that was pretty memorable, and we used to do this thing around dinner time where we kind of connect with words, and there was alphabet, and you pick a letter or whatever, and then you would use words that you're grateful for, and or that align with gratitude, and my daughter was like, I have this word, and the letter of the night was F, and you probably know where I'm going here. And she goes, what about, and she's quite young, like 5 or something like that. She goes, what about fuck? I'm like, oh, okay. And I know for sure, you're not supposed to react. I know for sure I reacted. She's like, does that fit? And I'm like, where did you find that word? And she's like, oh, one of in the school, one of the annexes had that word on it, and I wasn't sure if it was good or bad. And I'm like, okay, well, here we are. This is it's a word, and maybe not the best word to use right now at your age, at school especially. So let's just leave it at that.
That is memorable, man. Oh, I'm dreading that day. You
Yeah.
know, there's moments where my kid will say something kind of close, and
Hmm.
immediately I'm like, "Oh, that was you, wasn't it?" She's like, "Yeah, right."
Hmm. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
like, oh, like she says, I'm like, "Oh, remember, mommy taught you that." Okay.
I had a very I didn't swear once upon my life, actually, for a long, long, long time, and most of that time was as a kid. This is well before I had kids, though, because I swore like a trucker, right? Like it's one or the other. And so it wasn't coming from our house for sure. And then as the kids got a little older, my wife slipped down a little bit of a swearing path, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna swear. And then I just decided one day that, hey, I was saying it in my head most of the times anyways. So I'm like, I might as well bring it back in the vocabulary. They're all swearing now. So yeah, I might as well join in now. So I'm still a little bit, I'm not a trucker anymore style. No offense to truckers, but
No,
I do use it when I'm really feeling it. Because some of those words
sparingly.
do feel really, really good to come out of the mouth.
Ah, I think there's a documentary on that as well. I think who was it? Who's that actor that's so ambiguous? Nicolas Cage. he
Oh,
did,
yes.
yeah, like he did that
Yes. Oh,
documentary on
yes, you're
there. Yeah,
right. That was I haven't
yeah.
watched that one yet. I do need to go back to that. It's on my watch list. You know how that works, like
Oh yeah.
500 watch list things later. So, but I do need to watch that one.
There's a stand-up bit by Aziz Ansari on like
Oh,
parenting and
sweet.
it's something in relation to this. It was
Yeah.
you know, yeah, like the you hear friends without kids talking about their Friday night or what their plans are, and it's like, oh yeah, we went to the club, rah rah rah, and
Yeah.
parents, hey, we want to go see Rango. It's like, and no, Rango's not a new movie. They've been wanting to see Rango for a while now, and I
Oh
just find that with
goodness.
kids, it's like, oh yeah, I'll check that out, and then like just
Yeah.
time goes by, and they're like, oh wow, like leaving Netflix, like, oh shoot,
Yeah, better
three
get
years
on it
later.
now. Yeah, the never never plan, right?
Absolutely. Well, Jason, do you have any final thoughts on this topic before we wrap out for episode 93?
Yeah. Yeah, I think fatherhood, parenting, you name it. I think the most important thing is that you learn from your mistakes quickly.
Hmm.
You have a very short-term memory, um, because and you do want to do the best you can for your kids, right? They didn't have a choice to come here or not. You picked for them. It's like,
Hmm.
you know, and you dedicate it's the most unselfish thing you can do in your life. There's nothing more unselfish than being a parent, but it comes with large responsibility. And but again, I think there's about 1 billion books about being a parent, and not one of them is perfect because every child is different, every scenario is different, cultures, perspectives on how to parent. There's so many varieties, and I think that do your best, be present, uh, you know, teach them those don't teach them the bad lessons you had as a kid, but give them the goods that you had as a child, and try to pay it forward to them, right? Good morals, um, work hard, play hard, win, um, win humbly, but
Hmm.
lose gracefully, and be your best parent as you can, and if you've got time with them, be present. Don't go on death scrolls because they're one, they're two, they're three, and all of a sudden they're 20 and 25 and moving out, and it goes fast, man. So hold on tight, because it's a real you have such a great responsibility to make another awesome human in the world, and so don't take that time for granted, and make the most of it.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for this awesome topic. Shouts out to your amazing son. I'd love to see you and him get one off together.
Yeah.
And who knows, it could be a cool opposite perspective on his thoughts on parenting, right? Like
You might-
what he see, and we'll
yeah.
have to segment it. It's like nothing specific to me, son. Just what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on it?
Yeah. Edit, 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 edit. Yeah.
Wow, it's just 2-minute podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Here's my
awesome.
son. Goodbye.
All right,
Thank you,
Jason, take
Hassan.
care
And
and until the next one.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Hassan.